Hey guys, what is up? Don't worry, I'm not alone. Jay will be with us momentarily. He's just taking care of something, and he'll be right back. But this is the latest episode of the movie discussion Pocket Dimension, where time does not exist, and the only thing that matters is film. Sorry about missing last week. That was just a unplanned thing that kind of happened. But anyway, we're past that now, and we're bringing you after one of our other sort of vague sort of series that we never really put a lot of thought into, just like the snow thing. I remember, a couple months back, I was thinking, hey, there's a lot of snow outside, maybe some movies in the snow, and that's how we got into a few things there. And then recently, I was rewatching one of my favorite movies ever, The Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou, because my awesome friend Orc actually sent me. Had no idea he meant to do this, but he was serious. He on Amazon he bought me the Criterion Blu-ray, the special and sent it to me, like because he's just a generous guy. Anyway, and that came and that was awesome. So I was very interested in seeing it. And after watching it, it just sort of made me think about water because I'd also watched The Shape of Water, in theaters not too long before, and I thought, hey, why not maybe some movies that have water as a theme? And that's where we got here. So we're thinking about doing a couple of those. And that brings us to tonight's episode, the 1989 Australian thriller Dead Calm, which is more or less a cast of three with Nicole Kidman, Sam Neill, and Billy Zane, based on the novel of the same name, novel from 1963, also same, by Charles Williams. And we'll talk a little more about that later on. So, Dead Calm. So there's some different ways of doing the movie, but I mean, most part, no, we were just joking before. I think the Dead Calm could also be the story about how one remarkable man helped, save a troubled couple's marriage. Billy Zane definitely did some extreme therapy there.
Billy Zane, he has odd methods, but he's a great marriage counselor.
Yeah, definitely. You know, at the end they're going to make it. That marriage is going to last. So, I was saying about Dead Calm is it's a movie. It's one of the few movies where I really have no memory of when I first saw it, or when I first heard of it, or anything. It just feels like it's just been embedded in my mind that at some point in the past I'd seen it, and that I probably saw it once or twice after that. And I always thought it was a pretty good kind of underrated thriller that not a lot of people seem to talk about. I mean, back in the day, of course, it was an Australian film, and it was before Nicole Kidman became a sort of a big known actor over here. To a certain extent, same thing with Sam Neill, who I guess would become really introduced to North American audiences in Jurassic Park. Probably, this is before he even did he was in the third Damien movie, The Omen. He was in The Omen 3, and I think he was in that the year after this. So this is even before that, I believe. I'm pretty sure that's 1990. I'll have to double check that just to be sure. Yeah, but so
this is our first Australian movie
that's true.
And Nicole Kidman celebrated her 20th birthday on the set. So
wow, yeah, I wasn't sure how old she was there. Might as well do this now before it becomes a big important issue here. But Nicole Kidman was always, a very beautiful actress and had that reputation. She's one of the very few, maybe the only actress I can think of who I was not attracted to when she was that young. And it wasn't until she was almost in her later 30s that I, decided that I thought she was really beautiful. Like, I think she looks like so much better in a movie like freaking Bewitched than she does here. I don't know why. I love how she looks.
She's 50. Era. She's 50 years old now. Still looks amazing. She
still looks amazing. And it's not like she ever didn't look beautiful in her 20s.
Right.
But for some reason, once she was like in her mid to late 30s, that was when she became more attractive for me, especially in that same year I saw Bewitched and a very good movie that she's in, The Interpreter. I think she's just so gorgeous in The Interpreter, and she's got to be close to 40 in that movie, I think. Something like that. But anyway. But yeah, so maybe some of it's just the 80s hair, I don't know, but I mean, it's not a big deal. But anyway, it's not like she's not pretty in this. She certainly is. And that's one of the things that you know about the couple right away, although maybe you don't anymore with the way movies are going nowadays. But it was supposed to be a plot point, sort of, somewhat, that Sam Neill is quite a bit older than his wife. That's supposed to be kind of understood and known. Although now it's almost so normal that you wouldn't even really think of it as a plot point. You're like, well, that's how movies go. It's, some guy in his 50s and some chick in her 20s. Not that Sam Neill was that old. Sam Neill was in his 50s then. But yeah, it's an Australian film, as we said, but it's a water film, so we don't actually ever set foot on Australia. It was shot in the area, though. It was shot off the coast around the Great Barrier Reef, but because the movie's called Dead Calm and they stick to that, we're not going to be treated to beautiful coastlines or any of these things. You're just out in the water. You're not supposed to see land or anything like that. So it's almost like it could be anywhere. But yeah, an Australian film.
Yeah, it's well, I guess we'll get there. But yeah, I guess the film starts off with there's been an accident. There's been an automobile accident, and Sam Neill's son was killed, and his wife was really injured, critically injured. And they don't really focus on exactly what's going on with her, so you don't really know exactly what her injuries are. And then he immediately like plans this trip, which it seemed like an odd choice to me. To hey, you're going to recuperate from your the death of your son and your horrible injuries. So let's go on a sail for a month or whatever.
I kind of get it, because the idea of sort of like being isolated from society, maybe being in the house is too much of a reminder of the kid, their house. So
yeah.
here's a way to sort of disconnect and the people they know and just be the two of them. I can kind of get it. Plus, he is a Navy guy.
Right.
And he's a Navy veteran. He's been in the Navy, he says, for 25 years. And the first time we see him, he's all decked out coming back from being on duty, because I think it's like around Christmas or something. He's coming back to see them on leave, and this has happened. But yeah, he's clearly a Navy. He probably doesn't make a lot of money, but they own a yacht, which suggests that, well, if you own a yacht and you're not rich, it means you're really into the ocean. Like, it's a priority for you if you're gonna spend that much money. It's a priority. So you can kind of think that maybe that's his solution to everything. It's like anything that's going bad will go on the yacht, it almost seems. So I kind of get it. It fits to me with his character since he's a Navy guy.
The suspense works so well for me, because that's like one of my only true fears is like being stranded out in the ocean and sharks and stuff like that. That's really one of the only things that actually bother me. So it was a few times in this movie that it was pretty cringeworthy, man.
Oh yeah, there's definitely situations that I would not want to be in. Like, there's all sorts of dangerous situations that nobody wants to be in, but there's ones I know I would handle better than others. Well, this is a little embarrassing as a Nova Scotian and Cape Bretoner, but I am useless on a boat. And I am a person who has been taught boat things. I've been on a boat with people that know what they're doing, who are trying to teach me, and I've just been completely inept, at setting up a sail and tying the knots and stuff like that. Like, I'm just so bad to have on a boat. So you put me on a crisis on a boat, it's not very good. So yeah, sort of the same thing here. And what's great is you get, well, I mean, they're dealing with the same crisis, but two different situations. She's stuck with a violent sociopath, and he's stuck on a slowly sinking boat. And I like how it goes back between their situations there. But anyway, so yeah, so that's sort of the setup. So we've got these grieving parents who are trying to recuperate, and it's well known, in real life, that the death of a child very often ends marriages for couples.
Absolutely.
And if it's the only child, it almost guarantees it. Like, if there's other kids, then maybe, because then they want to stay together for the sake of the kids. But if there's no other kid, it's like, I don't know the statistics, but it's definitely true. You can look up that, like, yeah, if it's the only child, that there's an extremely high chance of them, going their separate ways. And, you can see that these are two people that are trying to hold on to each other and not do that. And it seems like a kind of a reasonable thing. And then they wind up in this situation.
Yeah, it's going back to the accident itself. I didn't mean to breeze over it like that, but it's like they're in traffic, and the kid like unbuckles himself.
Yeah, he drops like a toy on the floor, and he wants to go get it. Is what it is.
He gets up, and then she immediately starts like freaking out and swerving all over the place. And
well, yeah. Well, the thing is, we're only shown a little bit initially, and then we see more of that later on in one of her nightmares later on. Because the first time we basically see the crash, we don't see what's happening in the car beforehand. It's not till a little later that during the movie when they're out on the boat, she's having a nightmare and she's having a flashback to it, and that's where we see more, including the very, I think, surprising shot of the kid actually flying through the fucking window.
Yes.
You don't expect to see that.
I was watching that here in the office today. I was like, "Oh shit!"
Yeah,
I've forgotten that's
right when she wakes up, but it's not that fast. Like it happens enough that you know what's happening. You see that little body go sailing through the air and through the windshield, and you're like, "Oh Jesus!"
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So yeah, that part is revealed a little later on. The first time they show it to you, they more or less just sort of show the aftermath. What's kind of funny, it's not a big complaint or anything like that. Is when he's being, brought into the hospital and he's told right off that his son is already, they brusquely tell him the son's dead, but your wife is still here and stuff. Like they're trying to prepare him. They say like, she's pretty hurt. Most of the damage to the face, but then when you see her face, it's not that bad at all. Considering she was in like a car accident that killed somebody, her face isn't really that bad at all. Like people get their faces absolutely shredded in these types of situations. It doesn't look like she doesn't even have any scarring when she's out on the boat. I'm not saying, the movie should have had her face all scarred up. I'm simply saying, why did they have that detail where they're like, the damage is very extensive, especially to her face. And I'm thinking, well, clearly it's not, because she seems to have bounced back from that very nicely. She didn't even look that bad in the hospital. And then, once they're out on the boat, however many weeks or how much time has passed since then, her face is completely fine. But anyway, they're like, well, this is Nicole Kidman. Let's not dick around. Then Nicole Kidman realized that for the movie The Hours, messing up her face was the way to go. She wanted to chase an Oscar. I don't know if you remember, but there was a movie called The Hours in the early 2000s. She won, I believe, at least got nominated for, and she put like a big fake nose on because we've talked about this before. But like, what do people like for best actor Oscars? They like it if you play somebody who was real, play somebody who was crazy, or play someone who's ugly. Especially if you're a woman. If you're a pretty woman and you ugly it up, well then, you're amazing. Like, you're such a beautiful woman, and here you're ugly up. And Monster has it double, right? In fact, it's the trifecta almost. She's playing a real person, a crazy person, at least, at least say, and she was ugly. So, there was no way. Yeah, there was no way she wasn't going to win for that. It was like, look what this beautiful woman has done to herself for this role. And, Monster's a good movie, and it's a good performance. I'm just saying, like, it's just guaranteed. That's the way you win Oscars.
It's a good movie.
Was all three rolled into one.
It's not something I want to watch. Like,
what's her name was the better performance?
Christina Ricci.
Christina Ricci was amazing. Like, she was so much like the real person. Like, I know a lot about the case and stuff like that, and she was a lot like the real person. She did a really good. I thought she did an even better job.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Nicole Kidman's been chasing that. Well, she won a. Is it what's the one for television? An Emmy, I guess.
Emmy.
Yeah, she won an Emmy for that HBO show that's just been announced for a second season. Pretty Little Liars or something like that.
Oh, she's part of that.
I think that's.
I read like the first 3 or 4 of those books when they came out, but I never watched the show.
Oh, that's not it.
Yeah, it can't be Pretty Little Liars.
It's got something like that. Big Little Lies, big ass lies.
Yeah, that was Nicole Kidman playing Virginia Woolf in The Hours.
But I've been really impressed with Nicole Kidman lately. Like in the past few years, I've never been a fan of hers. I don't really like the movies that she chooses, but I mean, virtually everything I've seen her in, she's done a good job. I mean,
The Interpreter was one of the first movies I ever saw that she was in that I was like, that's like an awesome movie. I really, really like that movie. I like her in it. I like Sean Penn in it and stuff. I realized that the premise is a little flimsy. Like, Sean Penn would not probably still be on duty after that. Like, I don't think the Secret Service works that way. Oh, well, your wife just got tragically killed in some accident and you constantly keep listening to her voicemail messages. Yeah, you're fine for active duty. At the UN and stuff. But anyway, it's still a really good movie. I like it a lot. But I'm just trying to pull up her body of work here just because she's an actress that I often completely forget exists.
Yeah.
Which is really weird because it's not because, I mean, she's a big name. She's a big star and she's been in a lot of stuff. Although part of me wonders, and now don't jump on this too much, people, because I think Nicole Kidman has proven herself to be a good actress and definitely deserving of her role. But you have to think that, like, she got really popular in the 90s because of the Tom Cruise connection. She was with Tom Cruise, and they were, like, this really great, beautiful couple. And I think that kind of brought her up a level. I'm not saying that was her intent or anything like that. I'm not saying, she just latched onto his fame. I'm not saying that. Anything like that. But I do think that is what made her a bit more prevalent.
Well, I mean, they were together, like, really, like, before he became super famous, weren't they? I mean,
yeah, I don't know. I mean, he was pretty famous even in the 80s.
Yeah, like Risky Business stuff.
Yeah, like Top Gun kind of, I think, Top Gun is kind of like what made him, right? Like, he was known for Risky Business. So I think Top Gun is kind of what made him a big star, like almost overnight type thing.
Top Gun was 86. I wonder what year they got married.
They did Days of Thunder in 1990.
They were both in that, right?
Yeah.
1 year after this movie.
And she's still married to that country guy, Keith Urban. Was an Australian country guy.
So they got married the same year they did that Days of Thunder.
Yeah, that sounds about right. But it's true. Like, the first half of her career is movies that I really don't care that much about now that I'm looking at it.
Mm-hmm.
And she is like, I mean, not to pick on her because everybody's terrible in this movie, but man, she's terrible in Batman Forever, which is not her fault because everybody's terrible. As far as I know, Joel Schumacher just told all the actors, just be terrible. Be as stupid and awful as you can be. Like, I still enjoy Batman Forever because it's goofy fun. But I mean,
who did she play? She wasn't Poison Ivy.
No, she was just this made-up character. She was Dr. Chase Meridian, the dumbest psychiatrist of all time. Like, the banter that she and Batman engage in that film is some of the most embarrassing crap you'll ever hear. Like, to think that a character, and I'm not going to go on this, and I know Cole takes comics and Batman too seriously, but man, it hurts to hear Batman engage in such bullshit lines. Like, because I'm like, Batman's not like that.
Is that the George Clooney Batman?
This is the Val Kilmer Batman. And she and Val Kilmer, their scenes together. Like, I mean, the movie's full of just stupid, embarrassing crap. Most notably, especially, I mean, that's the thing. I think that's the thing. Like, the Riddler and Two-Face, as played by Jim Carrey and Tommy Lee Jones, are so over the top and awful. It almost makes you overlook how over the top and awful she is with Val Kilmer. Their scenes together are cringeworthy, embarrassing, awful garbage, where they just have a bunch of like weird sexual puns with the commissioner standing right there, by the way, going, "Oh Jesus." Yeah. But anyway, yeah. So it took quite a while before she was in anything. I would love to see BMX Bandits, by the way. That's definitely on my list of movies to see.
Yeah, I've got the VHS, but it's also on Amazon Prime here in the States.
That VHS must be worth something, I'd imagine. That seems like a collector's item to me.
I went through a phase. I bought all of those terrible, like Gleaming the Cube and Prayer for the Roller Boys.
Yeah, she did absolutely nothing I cared about in the 90s. I liked Dead Calm, which I found out, I'm not sure, I didn't see it as a kid anyway. I saw it, I can point it was at least a little later than that. But she did absolutely nothing in the 90s that I liked. And I saw
Far and Away? Did you see Far and Away?
That's one I didn't see. That's a Ron Howard film, so maybe that's good.
She was in that with Tom Cruise also.
Oh, okay. Well, let's see here. I liked Moulin Rouge for what it is, and I liked the others. And
you haven't seen Malice? Oh, Malice is awesome.
I didn't like Malice.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't hate it or anything. I just didn't really like it.
If you're familiar with that type of movie, you can figure it out in about 5 minutes.
Yeah, I guess so. It's another Aaron Sorkin thing. Not really a fan of him. But
I saw it in the theater in '93 and liked it a lot. So I was easily impressed back then.
Yeah. So for somebody that's been around for so long, she's done very few movies I like, very few. And the latest movie I saw her in that I liked, she was not important in. That was Stoker. Like, you could easily forget she's in Stoker.
I didn't remember she was in Stoker.
There you go, because she's not that important. She's just there. But Stoker's a great movie.
It's the other girl, isn't it? The oh shit, the younger girl is the main lead in that movie.
I can't say her name. Mia Wasikowska.
Yeah. I know what you're talking about.
But the thing is that it has Matthew Goode, who's another one of those guys that I would put on my list of like super underrated actors that nobody ever talks about. A couple of them are in Watchmen together, because Matthew Goode is in Watchmen, and so is Billy Crudup. I think both those guys are awesome and don't get enough praise or recognition or whatever.
I don't see Billy Crudup in hardly anything anymore.
Which is too bad, because I love him in like everything. He's one of those actors where I'm just happy to see him. Always just so happy to see Billy Crudup. He hasn't aged in like 15 years either. He looks exactly the same, which is kind of impressive. But anyway, getting back to this movie. So, yeah, this is 1989, as we said. So Nicole Kidman would not really be known to American audiences at this point. Probably ditto Sam Neill. I'm not really sure about Billy Zane. Billy Zane's never been an A-list guy at any point. He's been in some large movies, most notably Titanic, but
he was close in Titanic, another water movie.
Yeah, that's true. But I've always been a big Billy Zane fan, and I feel like we missed a window that, like, in like the 2000s, he would have been the perfect. Getting back to Batman, sort of. I always thought he'd be a great Lex Luthor.
Man, I went and saw The Phantom because of Billy Zane.
I saw it, and there was nobody there. My friends and I just ran around. It was empty.
It's not a good movie at all, but
no, it's like a poor man's Indiana Jones type thing.
Yeah, and he wears like pink spandex.
Yeah, it really confused me too because I wasn't aware of the original. Like because the whole point of the Phantom is there's a different one for every generation,
right?
So they just picked like the 30s pulp one. But at the time, I was watching a 90s cartoon called Phantom 2040 that's set in 2040, so it's all futuristic.
Yeah.
So it was sort of a weird disconnect too. Like I knew it was about a past Phantom, but it still felt really weird.
It's an odd choice. I don't know why they did a lot of that pulp stuff in the 90s, like with the Shadow was kind of the same way, wasn't it?
It's 100 times worse if you ask me, but yes.
I don't know
now
why
that's
they
a live commentary. If we ever do a live commentary on this show, we should do the Shadow because my God, that's only the mid 90s could produce such a movie too. As much as a fan of the 90s I am, it's kind of like all the worst things about the 90s are in that movie, and it's like fucking Alec Baldwin, isn't it?
Yep.
Even when Alec Baldwin was youngish and thinnish, he still didn't have the makings of any sort of like hero character. Crazy.
This is Billy Zane was it's probably his biggest film to date back then. He was, for sure. In Back to the Future had a small role.
Yeah,
had a small role in Critters.
So this was really his thing, like his sort of coming television.
Out. I thought he did a great job. I mean, especially right when they got him on the boat. I thought he was actually really believable that he went through all that.
Well, I mean, that's the thing, right? We talked before on this and other shows about like movie villains, and then you have some of those villains that really couldn't exist in real life, but you like that about them. Like Hannibal Lecter is awesome. I love Hannibal Lecter, and what's cool about Hannibal Lecter is that he's actually just, as far as I know, there's never been a serial killer in real life that's ever been anything close to Hannibal Lecter. It's more like a what if. It's like what if like a depraved serial killer was also like this badass genius, super cultured guy that hasn't really existed, at least that we know about, but it's still fun to see. What I like about Billy Zane's character is that it's just a more realistic sort of psychopath. This is more what they're like, because I've watched and read a lot of stuff about killers and stuff like that, and people, and just like the same thing as what Nicole Kidman's character goes through with him is a lot like a lot of real life accounts. You hear these things about these women that have survived encounters with them, even ones that have been abducted. And the main reason they managed to survive was they managed to trick him into thinking they were sort of on his side, or that they sort of were going along with him and all that stuff. Maybe it wouldn't have kept them alive forever. Maybe he would have eventually killed them, but it kept them alive long enough until they were rescued or whatever happened. Like there's multiple accounts of this, of women that have survived such situations. And so Nicole Kidman's what she does is, I think, it's very much based on what a lot of women in this situation has done. And just the way he acts is a lot more like the typical, we'll say, the more real life sort of psychopath serial killer, in that he just sort of like jumps moods. Like he acts like really happy, and then he can just go to like furious and crazy in the next few seconds. And he doesn't really talk like, he's not monologuing like he's a supervillain. He thinks everything he's doing is fine and great. He really believes that he was in a life or death situation. He killed those people because he had to, and all this stuff. Like that's much more true to life. So yeah, and I think he does a great job too.
Let me ask you this: how would you have approached that situation if, say, you're on the boat and he's rowing towards you? I mean, oh man, it would have been so easy to just drive off and like you wouldn't have had the problem. But I don't think I could do that.
No, I wouldn't do that either. But I don't know. Part of me wants to say, because I've seen all these movies, it would make me really paranoid, but I probably wouldn't. I'd probably be like that. As soon as I saw the boat, I'd be like, "Oh, get him on board! Here, help this guy!" Like I'm almost sure like that would take over my brain. I wouldn't be thinking, oh, this guy could be dangerous or bad news. Oh, I think that would go out of my brain, at least at first. Maybe eventually I'd be like, yeah, because I mean, I guess that is the question you can ask. is like how smart of it was Sam Neill to leave her alone with him. Now, he
Yeah.
does lock him in the room, and he also makes the assumption that given what the guy's been through, he'll probably sleep long and sleep deep, which is not the case at all. Because his plan is, I'll go check it out and I'll be back before he even wakes up. But you see what happens.
I don't know why he was so concerned with going over there anyway. I mean, what is he going to do? I mean, is he just trying to prove his story? I mean, if you don't believe him, don't leave your wife alone. I mean, that's would be step number one, I think.
Yeah, he doesn't believe him, and that's why he goes.
But is it just to like prove him wrong? I mean, now I need to get back because he's going to kill my wife. I mean, it seems, I don't know.
I don't know. I think it's probably kind of like he doesn't believe him, but he doesn't really suspect just how bad the guy is. He thinks he's hiding something, that something's not right, but he doesn't really think. I think he's pretty absolutely shocked to find that the 6 people he was on board with were all like obviously murdered very violently. I don't think he was expecting that. I think he was expecting to find something that would corroborate that the story doesn't add up, but I don't think, he thought, oh, this guy's like super dangerous. I don't think so.
He didn't really find that, did he?
Oh yeah,
he found the dead people, but I mean, he knew they were dead.
Yeah, but it was very clear that they were not. They didn't die of botulism. There was like a head floating around.
Oh, it was.
and then there's video evidence playing.
Yeah.
You get to see his crazy breakdown. Yeah, getting back to the book, this is where I think I haven't read the book, but I know I read some stuff about the book on Wikipedia and stuff like that. And it sounds like it would be better than the book, because the book, he's not really as dangerous or as malicious. And in fact, he hasn't even killed that many people. When they find him in the book, and by the way, they also invert this, the couple was out for a completely different reason. Instead of, trying to decompress and detach themselves from society to help get over the death of their son, they're on their honeymoon. So you have a couple who's actually on their honeymoon, and they find this guy. And then when he goes to the boat, only about 2 people are dead, and 2 are still alive, including the captain. And they tell him that this guy, what happened was they were all out together as friends, and they went diving, and there was a diving accident where the guy accidentally killed the captain's wife. It was an accident. He panicked underwater, and he did something that made her drown or something. But then he suffered a psychotic break and attacked the rest of them, and then left them or something. So, and it's also understood that he's not mentally retarded, but at least not in step mentally, that he's not a fully functioning mental person and stuff like that. So he's much more sympathetic in that. I like how they do away with that for the movie. I like how, there's nothing wrong with him as far as that goes. And he doesn't have a psychotic break per se. He's just crazy and a killer. I like that. And that he's killed all of them too. It's much more effective to me that he goes and everybody's dead. But yeah, there's body parts floating around, including a head. So
I just saw
they died violently.
It was like a naked woman flopping around. They kept showing her different angles. I saw that quite a few times. That was the brief nudity. I just it was so believable. He was like, it was probably botulism from the salmon. He's like, botulism, what's that? When he knew exactly what he was talking about, because he knew that it had, it would affect your nervous system and make you see things.
Yeah, and there wouldn't be anything you'd be able to do when you're out to sea. Which is another sort of fear the movie brings up, even though that's not actually what happens. It is true that if you're out to sea, there are certain situations, just like that, like something like food poisoning, that you're not necessarily as prepared for.
Oh man.
And you could be really screwed. So
imagine you would die of dehydration really quick.
Yeah. See, I would not be against going on a pleasure cruise on a yacht, but I would always want to be close to land. Just, like this movie, the movie does a great job of that, setting the mood. It has very little music, which is good, because it really, at least especially the first half, before things really, pick up and dramatic stuff is happening. First half is very quiet, which is great because it sets the mood. They're out in the sea. It's a dead calm. There's nothing going on. There's no breeze. It's too far out in the sea for there to be any birds, so it's just silence. And I really like that. It's really effective. Really, sells the situation that they're in, that they're really far out, really far from everything. So yeah, he writes it down. Then you see a little bit of his meticulous naval brain because he keeps a log. He's writing things. He talks about seeing the ship, and he writes down "dead calm" as he sees the black schooner.
Yeah.
I think if you ever see a black schooner, that's a sign of death. Isn't that like some sort of old pirate thing? A black schooner.
I thought it was like albatross or something.
That is too, yeah. That what's that come from? That's the rhyme of the Ancient Mariner.
Okay.
They killed the albatross, and it had the bad luck of them being stranded to sea.
I think there was one in Moby Dick too, wasn't there?
Yeah, it's all based on the rhyme of the Ancient Mariner. The thing about that, how's that go? Water, water everywhere, and all the boards did shrink. Water, water everywhere, nor any drop to drink. When they're all dying of thirst out there. That's some rhyme of the mariner. That's obviously the famous line. It's a very long poem I studied in school a long time ago and stuff. It's kicking around here somewhere. I never revisited it. It's hard language. It's hard stuff.
Yeah.
It's one of those ones where you have to keep going over to the side and seeing like the little thing. It's like kind of like a Shakespeare deal. It's got some difficult language in it. But there was a time where, for the purposes of I guess the assignment I had, where I could interpret it pretty well. But I'm pretty sure that's where the albatross comes from. But no, the black schooner, I don't think that's an actual thing. I just mean it sounds like a thing. You're out in the middle of sea and you just see a mysterious vessel, a black schooner. I don't know. To me, that sounds very ominous. That sounds like a ghost ship to me.
Yeah. Yeah, Sam Neill, we haven't really talked about his performance in the film very much.
Right.
It's I thought it was interesting how we were a third into the film. We were 30 minutes in. That's when Billy Zane basically takes control of their yacht, and Sam Neill's stranded. And did you when he jumped to try to catch on the ship and missed, and he cut himself?
Yeah.
Did you think like sharks were going to be coming? I'm sure that's what it is trying to make you think of when he.
I think so. Every time you see blood with water, right? You think,
oh, dude, that's.
Yeah. There are no sharks in this movie, as it turns out. But I think automatically that just goes through your mind. That there's blood in the water, and
Australia's known for their sharks too.
Oh yeah, they are. It's funny. Everybody talks about visiting Australia and how great it is. I'm not saying don't go. It's a great thing, especially for people like us, because everybody speaks English and stuff, and it's beautiful. But Australia has the most dangerous animals in the world. In Australia, there's also a 3-foot spider rule too. There's never a time where you're more than 3 feet away from a spider in Australia. Wow. And here's one thing I like about living in a nice temperate area in the Northern Hemisphere, is that heat makes things big. Yeah. So the further down south you are, the bigger the snakes are, the bigger the bugs are, and everything like that. Up here, they're small and manageable and only bother us in the summer. But down there, they're around all year and they are big. Yeah. That's why in the time of the dinosaurs, everything was huge, because the Earth was warmer. The warmer the Earth is, the bigger the animals are. So Australia, I'm not saying don't go to Australia. I'm just saying be mindful that there's a lot of deadly creatures in Australia. And people get bitten by snakes and eaten by sharks all the time. I'm not saying they'll die from it, but there's things, because they're pretty prepared. They've got anti-venoms and things like that prepared, but it's a normal thing. I'm not trying to.
Yeah, it seems like the places with the best waves to surf have the worst shark problem.
Oh wow!
It's I don't know what it is. I guess some correlation between probably the depth, and there's no barrier islands out there to slow down the waves or whatever.
Speaking of Australia and shit going wrong on a boat, I couldn't resist once I'd been locked into my subscription of Shudder, right? Was that they had Donkey Punch on there. So of course I watched fucking Donkey Punch.
That's a good one.
Which is pretty fun.
Had you heard that term before?
I don't know. I know it is a thing.
God, I hope it's not. I hope people aren't doing that.
Oh, people are crazy, man. They do all sorts of shit.
Oh man.
And that's what makes me wonder. I'm like, there's a lot of sexual stuff out there that's completely not dangerous that you can do. There's a lot. It's not missionary, what are we going to do? Donkey punch!
It's there's only 3 holes I can get in. Come on. We need to step this up a notch and
yeah.
start
What's funny is maybe I just didn't watch it closely enough. Because when I watch the movie, when she dies, when she gets donkey punched, if you read on Wikipedia where they give the summary, the Wikipedia article makes a point of mentioning that during that they're having anal sex. But there's no way of telling that watching the movie. It's not porn. They're not going to show it. And he doesn't announce it. He doesn't go, okay, going for... So I don't know why on Wikipedia it says that. Or maybe I just didn't watch the movie closely enough. I mean, this isn't a porn. It's simulated sex, but it does. If you look it up, it specifically points out that they're having anal sex at this point. It's like, how do you know?
I
mean, he's behind her, but...
Yeah. That's a good point, but I would think the donkey punch would work either way.
Yeah. In fact, the whole thing is about muscles contracting.
Yeah.
There's muscles in both. I mean, obviously.
Let's explore this a little bit more.
Yeah. If there's anything that this movie was missing, it was Billy Zane donkey punching Nicole Kidman.
He was kind of tame, though, didn't you think? Like, I thought he would be more violent, especially when he had her, like, where he wanted her.
I guess I can understand that too. It was more like she was like going along with it so well that he just sort of gave into it, which is another point that makes her character seem pretty smart.
It was because I mean he didn't rape her. I mean,
no. I mean, you get the idea that he might have eventually.
He probably would have, yeah.
But she took the initiative on this, and here's the. I didn't mean to get to this so quickly, but here's the question I would ask you: if you're Sam Neill and the movie's over now, do you ask your wife if Billy Zane raped her? Or do you just think, no, what happened, we're through it, like, better not to ask?
Oh, man, I think you'd have to ask.
You'd have to ask.
But what, yeah, you have no benefit from knowing, though.
No, you don't.
Yeah.
And, he didn't rape her. If he did, you're not going to feel very good about it, and it can mess up your relationship, which is no fault of hers, obviously, but I mean, I can't help it. I think you do feel differently about somebody when they've been raped. And I don't even mean like, oh, they're bad to you now, but it's just I haven't been through it. I'm just saying I think I could imagine that, you're thinking about them sort of as a victim, and you're thinking, oh, maybe they don't want me to touch them now because, all that stuff about intimacy and stuff like that, and now, in the case of this, he didn't rape her, but she would say, to gain his trust, I initiated sex with him. And you would go, oh, and you understand why she did it. She didn't fucking cheat on you. Mm-hmm. She's playing a deadly game for survival, and it paid off. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, it's in the back of your mind that they had sex. So, yeah, like, I think it would be really hard being Sam Neill because you would just sort of, I think it's just a normal instinct to ask.
Yeah.
I think probably what she would do is just say no.
Yeah.
Instead of telling her, going to the complicated story, saying, "Well, no, I suspected maybe he would have raped me later on, given the chance. I decided, blah blah blah, that I would initiate sex to ingratiate myself to him." She could say all that, but I think probably the smart thing would be she'd be like, "I was afraid he would, but he didn't. Maybe he would have, but you got here in time." It might be better just to lie in that situation.
Yeah.
Not that she did anything wrong. Because no, I applaud her character, and I think that was very smart. And that would be a very hard thing for you to go through. It's a terrible, hard thing, and you're going to probably have nightmares about it. But it was life or death, and it helped save you.
Yeah, he definitely would have killed her, and then probably raped her, or vice versa.
Yeah. Oh yeah, he definitely would have killed her. Like, and that's the thing. She realizes, he's up and down. He just goes from super happy and smiley to like within a whirlwind rage like that, which is again very true to life with a lot of these psychopathic types and stuff. They're just calm one moment and then they flip out the next, and they're capable of anything. And she already knows what he's done, and he's already smacked her around a little and stuff too. But yeah, I like how the movie juxtaposes how both of them have like different sort of hopeless situations. She has the hopeless situation of being on a boat with somebody who's very dangerous, but also is so much physically stronger than her that he doesn't even feel the need to like watch her all the time or tie her up or anything. He just goes about his business, and he doesn't really care that she's there. If she gets out of line, he'll like smack her down and stuff like that. Whereas Sam Neill is on a ship that is sinking with like a busted radio, and that's cool too because he's a naval guy, and you get to see that he has to use like his training and the stuff he learned is from 25 years at sea, like how to like deal with that sort of situation. Just pretty cool.
Yeah, it's cool that he immediately got in there and like started getting shit done. He just goes back over there and it looks. See if you think this is correct. I thought he created some sort of a pump to pump the water out of the engine room.
That's what I thought.
Okay.
Yeah, and he did a pretty smart thing about like one of the pipes too. Like he was breathing through a pipe towards the end when the water was filling up. But
I was wondering why he was staying inside of it though. Like I would have gotten out of there before it got so full.
Yeah, what happened was it happens really fast. Is like he should. It's too bad he was down there at the time. When he was down there when it was filling up, I guess he had to keep going down to get happening. The mast eventually collapses and then he can't get out. That's why he had to escape the way he did. Because like the mast collapsed over the hatch or door or whatever.
Okay.
That's why he had to escape down through the bottom of the boat. He was trapped there after that.
Like broke a hole in the hull, I guess.
There was a hole. Like
there was already.
That's why they were sinking. I don't really know what could have caused the hole exactly. All we know is that Billy Zane sort of like fucked up the boat and left. But I don't really know what made the hole unless maybe they hit shallows and hit some coral or something. I don't know, but he escapes through a hole in the bottom of the boat, which was already there. So, but yeah, I'd hate to be in that situation. Here's what I would do in that situation: I would just climb to the top of the mast and stay as high as I could as the ship went down. And then once the ship got down, I would drown with it. I would just hope that I could just stay up there long enough to like see a plane or a boat or something. I would not go down at all. Like again, he's experienced. He understands boat stuff. He realizes there's some things he can at least try to do, and of course the radio. And then you have that situation where the radio works, but only to a certain point where he's receiving her. He can hear her when she manages to call him, but he can't respond. And she's pretty quick. She figures out that he is there, and they work out the once for yes, two for no thing. So she starts asking the yes or no questions that he can click to, which is pretty smart. They get onto that pretty fast. I think a lot of people, there'd be a lot more confusion.
Yeah, totally.
Before they actually figure that out. But again, you get the idea. He's taught her some stuff too, and she's a pretty quick, clear thinker.
Well, you would think it would. The immediate would be to go to Morse code, right?
Yeah.
But I don't know. Maybe that's not a thing in Australia. I don't know. Maybe they don't teach that in the Navy or whatever. But I was just thinking. Have you ever seen the film? It's called Event Horizon. It also stars Sam Neill.
Yeah.
I was just thinking that when he first goes over to that other boat, it kind of parallels Event Horizon when they get to that ship and there's dead bodies everywhere. It's kind of similar.
Yeah. Don't his eyeballs eventually like explode in that movie?
Mm-hmm.
That's a messed up movie. I was too young when I saw it the first time. I'm not too young. I was like 14 or 15, but it was still before I'd gone sort of through my baptism of fire and was used to like gore and stuff. Like that movie profoundly disturbed me when I first saw it, and I wouldn't go back to it for years.
Yeah,
got some cool stuff in it.
I love it. It's one of my all-time favorites.
Wasn't it great when you watch Interstellar and you see they're talking about the wormhole or whatever, and they do the exact same explanation that they did? And I'm like, Event Horizon.
Fold the paper. They have a piece of paper. And they fold it.
Wasn't that Sam Neill that did that?
Mm-hmm.
Takes the paper, punches and says, like, this is how we get through space.
I'm sure they weren't the first ones to do it either, but
I know, but still, for some, like me and you, we watch that movie and you're thinking Event Horizon. But I also had Lawrence Fishburne.
Yeah,
it's a weird concept, wasn't it? It's like, what if hell was like a place you could physically reach, and they like go through like a black hole or a wormhole into like hell or a section of hell?
Yeah,
that's what I got out of it.
Is it another dimension or something?
You don't necessarily have to believe it's hell, but if it's another dimension, it's a very hellicious dimension.
It's like Doom, the video game.
Yeah, it is very much so. Like, and there's some really gory stuff in it, but it's fast. Yeah. But if you slow it down or pause it, like oh my god.
That's that guy, Paul Anderson, not the good Paul Anderson. This is the other one.
Yeah.
Not P.T. Anderson or whatever, Paul Thomas Anderson. The other one. He's done a bunch of crap since, but I actually really like that movie.
Yeah.
And it's one of the reasons that I probably searched this film out, because I was going through all of Sam Neill's films.
Oh, yeah. It's funny that we didn't talk about Event Horizon when we did the Black Hole episode.
Yeah.
Because Event Horizon is like what? Isn't it what am I trying to say? Is a result of a black hole, isn't it? But anyway,
Yeah,
it has to do with space time
yeah,
and
it's
stuff.
all that stuff's just up in the air. So
Yeah. Anyway, they're associated with black holes. They're definitely part of it.
it's the guy that
But
did all the Resident Evil films.
yeah, I know. Paul W.S. Anderson.
Yeah, and he's done a bunch. Oh, he did Alien versus Predator. Yeah.
Yeah, he's done like a couple movies I think are okay, and then like a bunch of crap. Like, well, I'll always like him because he did Mortal Kombat.
Yeah.
But
I know people like that. I don't, but people do.
No, I really do, and I mean I understand everything that's shitty about that movie. I do, but I just embrace it for whatever reason. That's a bad I know Orc thinks it's a legitimately good movie, and some people no, it's not a legitimately good movie, but it's a movie that I legitimately enjoy for sure. And the fact how bad it is just helps it. Like the terrible lines. I love quoting that movie, but anyway, so I always like him for that. But yeah, all his movies are just a bunch of like cookie cutter action type movies. I hate Soldier.
Oh, really? Yeah. See, I kind of like Soldier and Event Horizon. I don't like the ones after that.
You know,
Death
I saw
Race.
Pandorum in theaters, and Pandorum also has this whole Event Horizon,
Does.
this movie sort of vibe too, because it's like once again waking up like in a ship and realizing something terrible happened and stuff. You know, I saw that in theater, and that was the only time I saw it, and I was like, yeah, it was okay. You know, it wasn't terrible. I'm gonna do a Monster Hunter film, which is hilarious.
That's the video game, right?
Yeah, I played one of those back in the early 2000s. What's funny is like if it was ever big, it might have been big in like 2004. Like, does the world want a Monster Hunter movie? Does anybody know what that's talking about? Like, I think the only people that are Monster Hunter fans have to be like in like their mid to late 30s, and not too many of them. Like, there's no Monster Hunter show or current game. Anyway, that's going to be interesting that he's doing a Monster Hunter movie. You know, he's kind of like, I don't want to put him on the same level.
Uwe Boll?
Yeah, he's not on the same level as that. He's dangerously close, especially with all this video game stuff, and stuff like that. I know what he did that made me like super mad. He did that Three Musketeers movie. Three Musketeers is one of my favorite stories, and I'm very soft on movie adaptations of it. There are many movie adaptations of it. I like almost all of them, but I do not like that one. It is borderline unwatchable, man. It is terrible.
I haven't seen the recent one.
Yeah, do not watch it. It's got Orlando Bloom in it as a bad guy, and it's super bad. Like, the only reason I gave it a chance was because I thought, well, even if it's bad, I'll probably still like it, because I like, I don't mind a bad adaptation of Three Musketeers. Because I like Three Musketeers, but no, this is fucking awful. Like, a movie that a lot of people hate that I really like is The Musketeer. I love that movie, man.
Is that the one from the 90s?
Yeah, or 2000 or something like that. It's got Justin Chambers, and it's full of, and all the sword fighting is like based on like Chinese sword fighting stuff. I love that movie. Like, it's not a good movie, of course not, but I really enjoy it. Really enjoy it. I like comparing and contrasting it to the 93 Musketeers because they follow very similar plots and stuff.
Maybe that's the one I'm thinking of then, the 93 with
that's got like Charlie Sheen and
I was gonna say Emilio Estevez. Okay.
Yeah. It's okay. It's okay. Chris O'Donnell is D'Artagnan in that one.
Again, I was easily impressed back then, so it didn't take much.
And I still like it. Like I said, I really like Three Musketeers. Like, so I don't mind when they make new movies of it. I'm like, oh, let's see this. But no, the 2011 one by Paul W.S. Anderson is fucking terrible. I couldn't watch it even to make fun of it. It's just bad.
Like, I imagine a lot of like Matrix, like bullet time type stuff.
I can't even really remember. Actually, there's a lot less action in it than you'd think.
Oh wow!
I think it's part of the reason I don't like it. I don't know. It gets really goofy. I think there's like a fucking airship in it, for God's sakes. A goddamn airship. That's like a big part of the third act. Is like the bad guys have an airship. I always thought Rochefort was such a cool villain, and he sucks in this. Like, one of the best things about Rochefort, one of the best things about in the Musketeers is he's played by this actor David Schofield, and he's hilariously over the top, and I love him for it. Like he's just Rochefort's the man in black guy, the sort of the big bad guy that they had to fight, the guy that's under Richelieu, right? Like Richelieu's main like top. He was Michael Wincott in the '93 version. He's quite good because that's just the type of role that Michael Wincott was made for, right? But I really like this. David Schofield guy, who I was sure for years. I thought for years that he was shit. What is that actor's name? Hold on. I misattributed that role to guy in Pulp Fiction. He's British and not very tall.
Tim Roth?
Tim Roth. For years, I thought it was Tim Roth. It's not Tim Roth. Yeah, I thought it was Tim Roth playing him. No, it's somebody named David Schofield. And
yeah, I'm looking at him now.
And he's just amazing in that. I remember a friend, he was so evil, and there's like one point where like Richelieu's setting him off, and he's like, all right, I want you to watch this. And he's just like, and try not to kill anybody. He's just like, well, what if I absolutely have to kill someone? Yeah, and we made up this thing that whenever he rides up to somewhere on his horse, instead of dismounting normally, he would just take out his pistol and shoot his horse in the head and then just get off that way.
Wow.
No, we made that up. That's not in the movie.
Oh, okay.
We made that up, that he was so evil that he just, that's how he rode horses. I just love how over the top evil he is. But yeah, for years I thought that was Tim Roth. It's not. It's David Schofield. But yeah, like, so I know, no, it's not a good movie, but I enjoy the hell out of it. But yeah. Who directed that? Let's see.
Which one are you talking about? The 93?
No, the Musketeer from 2001. I'm just gonna double check that.
It's not even showing up on the
Peter Hyams. I have no idea who that is. Oh, he directed End of Days.
Good movie.
Oh yeah, he directed a lot of movies I liked. He directed 2 of the best Van Damme movies. He directed Sudden Death and Time Cop.
Oh, I love those too.
I love them. They're amazing.
Let's see. I was looking at the director of this film, Philip Noyce.
Noyce. Exactly.
I don't really recognize anything else he's done.
Was he Australian? He must be.
I'm sure he is. Yeah. He's doing a TV movie called Gone Baby Gone. That's odd. He directed one of the episodes of The New Roots a couple of years ago.
I saw The Bone Collector.
Oh, is that the Denzel Washington?
Yeah, it's Denzel Washington, Angelina Jolie. Oh, yeah, he did 2 of the Jack Ryan movies. He did Patriot Games and Clear and Present Danger.
Oh, okay.
Which are both okay. They're not great, but they're okay. I don't think any of the Jack Ryan movies are very good, but those are probably the better ones. I'm a little biased because I'm a big Harrison Ford fan, but yeah. So he's done some stuff. He's worked with her a few times. He did Salt with Angelina Jolie. But yeah, he's around. He's definitely around.
Salt's supposed to be okay too.
I saw it, but I barely remember. But you know what movie he did that I think is kind of underrated? I like, speaking of Val Kilmer, because he can actually give a good performance every once in a while, was The Saint. They did a pretty cool version of The Saint in '97. And it's just Val Kilmer and a bunch of costumes.
And had that cool, I believe it was Orbital on the soundtrack.
I don't remember.
So you would remember it if you heard it. It was in the trailer and played it like 10 times in the movie too.
And that was like one of the last things that like Elizabeth Shue did before she disappeared for a while, I think.
Yeah.
But I always like The Saint. I get a kick out of it.
It's like a Mission Impossible ripoff.
Yeah, a little bit, but I don't know. Actually, I find his character a lot more likable than Ethan Hunt. I never liked Ethan Hunt. I actually like the Mission Impossible movies for the most part. The second one's pretty bad, but
yeah,
I never liked Ethan Hunt as a character. I think he's kind of a prick. Like, I wouldn't mind they just killing him off and somebody else doing it, but of course they won't because Tom Cruise is that series. I understand that, but I just never liked his character. I didn't find him a likable guy.
Is John Woo did part 2?
Yeah, he did, which is too bad because I love John Woo, but it's bad. It's really bad.
I actually liked Ghost Protocol a lot. I don't think
it's good.
think there's been one since then.
I haven't seen it yet. It's been on my Netflix forever, and I keep meaning to watch it because I'm sure it's pretty good. Ghost Protocol is pretty good. You know, they bring in Jeremy Renner. I mean, he's all right. You know, they start to assemble kind of a new team. Jeremy Renner and Simon Pegg.
Yeah, Simon Pegg's good.
It's one of those things where the first is so different from all the others.
Yeah.
Like early installment weirdness. The first is way less actiony. You know, all the others, these big action blockbusters. The first has action, but not like on the same level at all.
You know, I still see
Emilio dies in the first scene.
Yeah, yeah.
That made me sad too. I remember the first time I watched the movie, we rented it and I watched it in Ryan's basement. I was like, Emilio! And then he like immediately died. I was like, no! I was really upset. Maybe that's one of the things. Maybe that biased me against Tom Cruise's character from then on. Because Emilio died and he lived. I don't know.
I still see people ripping off that scene when he's, you know, on the wires and the lasers are everywhere. I saw a commercial just the other day. And that was, 20-something years ago?
Yes, it was more than 20 years ago. My God, let it go, people.
Another good movie that Philip Noyce...
Sorry, go ahead.
Philip Noyce also did a film called Blind Fury. You familiar with that one? If you haven't seen it, you need to watch it.
No, I don't recognize the title.
Rutger Hauer is a blind
I've heard of it.
war fighter.
Oh, yes, I've heard of this.
It's pretty epic.
89. Same year as Dead Calm.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I didn't think about that.
Wow, that's an amazing poster. That's hilarious. It's basically Rutger Hauer's like Stick from Daredevil.
Yeah, or Zatoichi.
Hey, Tiger Chung Lee was in that movie as a bodyguard. Tiger Chung Lee is this big, what is he? He's a Korean pro wrestler. He was always like an extra in some action movies here and there. Very big for a Korean man. Huge. Huge man.
Let me go look him up. He played Casino Bodyguard.
His real name is Kim Duck.
I could see why he changed it.
But yeah, absolutely huge specimen of a man.
6'4".
Korean or otherwise. This is hilarious. Blind Fury was given 2 thumbs up by Siskel and Ebert.
Wow. That says a lot.
But yeah, I was going to think, but getting back to Sam Neill, who I would agree is another one of those sort of quietly underrated guys, and he's in a lot of movies I like. He is in a movie I really hate, and it's a movie that like I think most people would be surprised I hate it because it has Sam Neill, and it has a link to something. And it's funny because it's a movie that often gets brought up. I know it's a favorite of Kenny Tarr, who watches our show. Shout out to Kenny if he's there. I know, Kenny, you've mentioned this film several times that you really like it. I mean, I know what you're going to say because it's Sam Neill, and it's Memoirs of an Invisible Man. But I hated that movie. I could barely get through it. Like, all I wanted to... I felt like I was being tortured watching the movie, which is maybe a bit of a hyperbole because I know there's worse stuff out there. But I just have awful memories of watching that movie. I just hated everything about it. It's so weird. Like, Sam Neill's the bad guy. Chevy Chase is the good guy. That doesn't sound like a thing that should exist. But, anyway.
I wouldn't say I champion it or anything, but I liked it when I was a kid. And it's really what it is, a kid's movie, right? I
guess so. What happened was, I remember exactly how I saw it was, I've mentioned a few times that, like, what really got me more seriously into film was my roommate, my first year of university. He was a big movie goer, and he introduced me a lot of movies. This was one that he liked as a kid that he showed me, and I despised it. I was like, I was like mad at him for making me watch it. But I mean, I haven't seen it in 100 years, so maybe I could watch it again and try to reevaluate it that way, you know. But all I know is that it's like the only like negative I really associate with Sam Neill. I think for the most part has done really interesting work in some really good roles. I think what else
Jurassic Park 1 and 2, right? Or was he just in 1?
He's in 1 and 3.
1 and 3, okay.
Although, again, 3 is pretty fucking terrible. But yeah, they brought him back for 3.
Is Goldblum in all 3, or is he just in the first 2?
He is in the first 2. Which actually lines up with the books. Although The Lost World is pretty much nothing like the book, that much is true. That The Lost World, the book, continues. Grant is only mentioned. He's not in it. He's mentioned. And basically the main character is Ian Malcolm. Who I'll talk about later when we do our Spielberg show with the other guys. Because I love Jurassic Park. Because I'll just say, like, it stands really high as like one of the very, very few movies out there that's like an adaptation of the book that's very different from the book, but I think is still really awesome. And one of the things that makes it, I think, is the casting. I really like Sam Neill. And in that casting, they actually made him quite different from the original character. The Sam Neill Grant is pretty different from the Grant in the novel, but I like both versions. But yeah, Jeff Goldblum really brings it home because he's like, that's the role he's born to play. I know Jeff Goldblum has played a lot of great characters, and he's a very memorable guy. But to me, Ian Malcolm, he was just born to play that role. He was perfect. I can't read the book without thinking of thinking of Jeff Goldblum there doing it. He's just so believable to me as that character with his mannerisms and stuff like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
I was way off, by the way, when I was talking about Omen. What's funny is that's not how I remember the Omen at all. I thought Omen 2, I thought they were spread out. I thought there was like an Omen movie. I thought the first Omen came out like in the mid-70s. Then they made another one in the late 70s. And I thought the third one was like way further under. This is saying that Omen 3, Final Conflict, came out in 81. So that's way earlier than I thought. So yeah, Sam Neill would have been quite a bit younger. So I was saying that this movie came out before Omen 3. No, I'm way wrong. Correction, people. Omen 3 came out years before this movie. So I just have my dates mixed up for some reason there. I know I've seen Omen 3, but I don't like it very much. But Omen 2 is a pretty good sequel.
Yeah,
I'm really hard on horror sequels. I think like 90% of horror sequels are absolute garbage. I'm not nearly as soft on it as, like, again, some of our colleagues and stuff. But I will say that Omen 2, Damien or whatever, is a pretty solid horror sequel. Although that does not have Sam Neill.
Yeah, I like the Final Conflict, actually. It's been a few years since I've seen it, but it's, I mean, considering horror sequels, there's way worse out there. Like,
it was a pretty successful movie in its day, too.
Like, they made 5 of those Silent Night, Deadly Night movies. I've seen 4 of them.
Wow.
And I couldn't bring myself to waste my time on the 5th one.
Yours is a life well lived. I'm kidding.
No, I'm just, I mean, it's like checking stuff off the list. I mean, now at least I can reference it. You know?
Very true. I haven't seen any of them.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I've never actually seen Silent Night, Deadly Night. I know. Yeah. Did we do a commentary of it? Because if we did, I missed it. Yeah, because there was no way I owned the movie.
Oh, I didn't either. I think it was on somewhere. That's one you can skip. I think so. I mean, personally, I think it's a little overrated. People really enjoy that one, and
yeah,
that's just me personally, though.
So anyway, we followed Sam Neill on the director realm for a while, but getting back to this film, one of the things that's kind of interesting about it, although not directly related to it, is that this film was based on a novel from 1963 that was originally going to be a movie back in the 60s called The Deep, directed by Orson Welles. And it's one of Orson Welles' infamous unfinished movies. And they worked on it for 3 years, between 66 and 69, and they got quite a bit of it shot. But it just sort of fell apart. I don't really understand why, but they even kept hope for releasing it a few years later. It wasn't until the main actor died in 1974 that it finally put an end to it. But what's funny, too, is it says here in articles I'm reading that a lot of people thought it was going to be a really good movie, that the people that were working on it, sometimes when you have these unfinished movies, you find out, oh, it was a disaster, start to finish, blah, blah. They made it sound like they believed that this would have been a really strong movie had they been able to finish it, which is kind of interesting.
I think Orson Welles being attached is probably why it didn't ever get made.
Well, yeah, this is when he was becoming quite erratic. And one of the reasons he picked it was because he'd been sort of known for doing more art house style movies. He wanted to do just a more successful mainstream movie that will make some money. Like, that's very much what he wanted. He wanted a sort of it doesn't say in anything I've read how close it was to the original book, but I don't know. It sounds pretty interesting. I've always been interested in unfinished movies and, stuff that didn't get finished. There is some work print footage out there. I don't know if there's any way for us to watch it and stuff like that. There were even some times where he was trying to complete it using subtitles and intertitles and stuff. But anyway, it never happened. But I don't know. It sounds like it could have been pretty interesting. It was filmed off the coast of Yugoslavia, of all places. And it would have starred, I don't know these actors really, Michael Bryant, Lawrence Harvey, he's the one who died, Oja Kodar, Jean Moreau, and Orson Welles, I guess, he's not just directing, he would have been in it too, which is sort of par for the course for him.
Yeah, I don't recognize any of those actors.
Yeah, but anyway, some of these actors just mentioned that they thought that it was probably going to be good. It says that he had contacted Charlton Heston to be involved in it at one point. But yeah, it's a little bit interesting that quite a few years earlier they were going to make a movie that never happened, and it wasn't until the end of the 80s that this movie came to fruition. As I said, I haven't read the book, so I can't speak for it, but I like the changes they made from the book. It sounds better to me. It sounds like Billy Zane's character Huey's much more dangerous and menacing and sinister instead of just sort of being some mentally ill guy that freaks out. He's pretty calculating and and I don't know. I just thought his scenes with Nicole Kidman were really strong. I think there was probably a good amount of trust between the two actors that they were able to, so well. Him smacking her around and then them having not rape but sort of like awkward sex and stuff like that.
Huh.
What's funny is that is one thing. As I said, I can't remember exactly how. Maybe I was pretty young when I saw the movie, because I'll say one thing. When I watched the movie again for the show, I was surprised by how short the sex scene was. For some reason, I remembered it just longer. So maybe that was my adolescent brain.
Here's a little piece of trivia. Billy Zane is such a beast, a behemoth of a man. His raw strength, he was able to rip off Nicole Kidman's shorts with no alterations made to make it easier to tear. He just ripped it off.
Billy Zane, so talented. That is the wording, I guess, if you find what is in the trivia on IMDb.
Yeah. Billy Zane is such a beefcake that he just rips the britches right off.
It was his own raw strength. So
yeah, I feel like Billy Zane wrote that.
It's possible. But yeah, the first time she vanquishes him, after he breaks out of being tied up after she drugged him and stuff like that, and she confronts him on the steps, and she's got the harpoon gun aimed at him. I love how after she shoots him once and he keeps coming towards her, he gives her that awesome smile, like just insane, and he's just showing so much gum. He's just like looking at her, just like, I'm a nice guy, and you really sort of see it all peel away. It's like, oh, okay, he is a monster. Here he is. This is what he thinks is normal. Like, he thinks this smile is going to endear him to her. It's like, see, I'm nice.
Well, she shoots him in the shoulder, like, 2-3 foot harpoon, and he's just backing it out of himself because it went through him and stuck in the door behind him, and he's just slowly pulling his body off of it, which is got to be incredibly painful.
Again, it's part of his character.
It's part of his insanity. Yeah.
Yeah, his madman strength.
Yeah.
Which he also used to rip off her shorts.
Yeah. But then she, I don't know, man. If I was her, I would have just shot him in the face right there.
Yeah, I can understand, like, you're an ordinary person, you're kind of reluctant to kill somebody, but after what she's already seen, I think it would probably have been easier to, like, shoot him in the face or the neck or something.
Just somewhere and then throw him overboard. Which that was the original ending, was she bashed him in the face with the, what was that gun called? The spear gun.
Oh, yeah.
The harpoon, and and then she threw him overboard on an inflatable mattress, and he just floated off. But apparently, I was too ambiguous of an ending, so they reshot the whole shampoo scene.
Yeah, it's not bad. I mean, you see that in movies, right? The second time, you have the false ending, then you have the real ending.
I feel like he had a lot though. It was like he had 4 of those, like where you thought he was dead and then he came back again. Which I mean, it's fine, but
it's really horror movie-esque because he's got like the scarred up hands and he's
Yeah.
putting the hands on her. It's like reminds you of like Michael Myers or something like that.
it was well done.
It was well done, and I like how in a way though I was kind of sad that he didn't have any more dialogue there. He doesn't say anything, and he doesn't get a chance. Sam Neill comes back and shoots him in the head with the flare, which is a great ending. Great way to kill him. He gets hit right like in the mouth with the flare, which is really cool. But I almost felt kind of sad that there wasn't a little more dialogue there. But I don't know, maybe I guess everything that had to be said was already said at that point. It's funny though, but it just shows his mind, because like he very quickly does trust her. Like, because that's how it works. Because you could say, "Oh, that seems unrealistic." Like that. Oh, he would trust her right off. But I think that's realistic. I think that's kind of what those people characters are like. It's like, oh, of course she's forgotten about her husband, and now she's into me because I'm awesome. Like he really seems to believe that. Yeah, oh yeah, she's over the husband. It's fine. Like at first they fought about her going back. It's like, we're not going back. There's no going back. And now she's all nice and they've had sex and she's offering him drinks and he's not thinking at all that she could be still concerned about that silly husband of hers or want to fight him.
Yeah, just immediately turn the page. Like, okay, I'm with you now.
Yeah. See, as weird as it is, I believe like that there are people out there that have that sort of thought process where he's that kind of far gone, where he's just like, yeah, of course, yeah. He and I are gonna have like this, like, and the other thing is like, what is his plans for the future? We have no idea. Like, you can't stay out at sea forever. You gotta go to land if you want to get food and stuff.
He's just jamming out to some rad tunes and hanging out with Ben the dog,
who she winds up killing, which I didn't even realize the first time I watched the movie. I had to read it, and I was like, oh, right. I didn't actually catch that the first time. I just thought she wounded him. I guess it's because I was thinking too hard about the blood coming through the hole in the door, because to me, physically, that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. Unless
you're right up against the door. Which I guess is possible, but I mean, who goes through a door that way? Nobody presses themselves up against the door. Plus it opens up this way, so it doesn't even open up into her. But yeah, I mean, it's just one of those things that happens in movies where it looks like a cool effect, but when you think about it, it makes no sense. Like, so yeah, you see it punches a hole through the door, and then you see some blood trickle down through the hole. Sure, but I'm pretty sure physically that doesn't work. But anyway, no big deal. Yeah, it turned out she killed the poor dog. So now they have to mourn the death of their son. Now they have to mourn the death of their dog, which they are getting over pretty well. I guess the dog didn't mean anything to them because she's blabbing about how awesome she's going to have this great breakfast with angel hair pasta and stuff. Like, Jesus.
Yeah, the death of his wife's sexual promiscuity.
Her innocence is certainly gone. But
again, maybe he doesn't know about that. So
another thing I misremembered about the movie was, for some reason I remembered it, and I must be mixing it up with another movie, was I remembered that he was older than her. But for some reason I was also thinking, when I was seeing that car accident, I was thinking at first that was his first wife and that he remarried her. But that's wrong. But that's how I remembered it at first when I was going into it. It was like, oh yeah, there goes his wife, and now he's going to remarry her and go out. But no, the whole thing is that his wife. She doesn't die. And that's why they're out on the boat. But for some reason, I didn't remember that correctly. I was thinking that she was his new, younger wife, that he had a wife who died, but no.
We have a new viewer that brings an interesting comment here. And this actually crossed my mind, too. He said, one analysis of the film I read was that Hughie was symbolically the cause for bringing Ray and John together, even impregnating her with a new child, which was the point of the cruise.
It never occurred to me that he impregnates her. But as I said, he definitely is the force that saves their marriage.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
For that. It never occurred to me that he might have impregnated her, though I guess that's true. In which case, those awkward questions we talked about would have to be asked. They couldn't just shake it off and stuff.
Yeah, I guess that's we need a sequel. We need a sequel where Nicole Kidman and Sam Neill are back.
And they've raised Huey's son.
Yes, and then he goes crazy, and they all find out what happened with the rape, and Sam Neill goes crazy.
I hope there's a donkey punch in there somewhere.
Yeah. No, it's really all, left up to interpretation. So, or up to, whatever you think.
Mm-hmm.
Which is good. I would have been fine with leaving the ending open too without that last scene, but
Yeah, I think it's I think it would have been better to leave it like that. Maybe he could have lived instead of emphatically killing him off. The idea that she just left him in the boat. So the idea is like it could happen all over again. Some other couple out to sea could find this guy drifting alone in the raft, and they could take him on, and So yeah, I mean, it doesn't ruin it for me that they emphatically kill him at the end. That's fine, and they do that a lot with movies. Again, sort of the false ending and then the real ending. Sure, that's okay, but it is something to think about. That maybe they could have just set him adrift and had that be left like that. Or that's the other thing too, like that. Oh yeah, that's the other thing. Like, right before all that happens or whatever, it comes back empty, and she shoots it with that right? Yeah, the raft comes back empty.
They shoot it with the flare guns, right?
The flares. But still, even if it's empty, it doesn't necessarily mean he's dead. And of course, it didn't in that. It meant he made his way back to them. But the other way is, even though he wasn't in the raft anymore, maybe he swam somewhere or anything like that. Some good points about color there, Director Smiley. The use of color or the changing roles. That's a very,
I didn't even notice that.
That's a very good point. And I usually like to pick up on stuff like color and stuff because I was more concerned with location, I guess, more so than that. But that's a very good point. That she becomes the seductress wearing black. But yeah, we went through quite a few different movies we're thinking of to do when we're thinking about water. And it's not like we thought this was necessarily the best one or anything like that. It was kind of like a movie I felt like seeing again. I think it was also because it had some actors in it that we hadn't really gotten to talk about before. And it's an Australian film, stuff like that. But there's a lot of really good water films. And just to let people know, this isn't going to be like a really long series. We might do 2 more of these, I think. So it's not really going to be a big deal. But there's a lot of really great water films out there. And I was thinking some of my favorites. One is the 1956 adaptation of Moby Dick with, what's his name? Atticus Finch.
Gregory Peck?
Gregory Peck. I still believe, even though that's a great movie, that Gregory Peck was still too young for the role. He put everything into it, but he was still, I think he would have been like in his mid-50s or something like that. I don't know. He still seemed a little too young to be the Captain Ahab. But I mean, he does give a good performance. But I think that is a really, really great movie, which I rented a few years ago. Finally got to see all the way through. It's a really great novel too. I mean, I understand why it's a famous novel. It's a little bit weird though, like if it's a novel you've heard about for years but haven't read, because it's full of digressions. Because you could basically take out a bunch of chapters that are just digressions that don't move the plot forward at all. Like every once in a while, a chapter will just be like kind of like a little essay about something. I mean, it'll be related. It'll be about like life at sea and stuff like that, but it won't have anything to do with what the characters are actually doing at the time. It's kind of funny. Early on, what's hilarious is like there's a chapter just describing about how they eat, how they have like a clam chowder at this inn they stay at. And they describe it so well. It sounds so good. I'm just like, I want to eat clam chowder right now.
Oh man, I love clam chowder.
Yeah. The chapter, I think, is like literally called like clam chowder or something like that. The book's here, but it's not that clear, but it's a really good book. But yeah, so quite a few like sort of classic water ones. But I just thought some of them are a little one note. We wouldn't have as much to talk about, like something like 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, which is a big influence on me. I saw that as a kid when I had watched it on the Family Channel, the Disney Channel there. They used to replay it back when, they actually played classics. That movie terrifies me. The idea of like a giant squid attacking.
Yeah.
Never happens. Giant squids don't do that. But yeah, actually, that's the situation I'm a lot more scared of than a boat is a submarine, because that makes it even worse. Because now you're in the water. Now, you can be crushed by it. Speaking of Sam Neill being out to sea, he is in Hunt for Red October. And he actually attempts a Russian accent, although it's a complete loss. What's the point of Sam Neill doing his best to do a Russian accent when you've got his captain, Sean Connery, making no attempt? I'm a Russian sub-commander. I'm from Lithuania. Set a course.
We've talked about that before.
Set a course for Mother Russia.
Laddie.
Laddie. Aye, the pipes are calling for my vodka. Yeah.
Oh, man.
Alec Baldwin, too. Alec Baldwin is Jack Ryan in that one.
You got to respect Sean Connery for never changing his accent, though.
And I know we talked about it. And the most emphatic of all, of course, being Highlander. Oh, Highlander. It's about a Scottish immortal. And, it has a lot of Scottish stuff going on and kilts and stuff like that. And Sean Connery's in it. Sean Connery's not the Scottish guy?
Yeah.
He's a Spanish guy?
Yeah.
Wait, the guy from Belgium is the Scottish guy? That's the most confusing scene you'll ever see in the history of movies as far as accents go. Is them out on the boat talking about Scotland. You have Sean Connery in his thick Scottish brogue saying he's a Spanish guy, talking to a guy from Belgium who has one of those weird indeterminate accents where it just sounds off to Canadians and Americans. It's a European, but we don't know what the fuck it is. He doesn't sound like Jean-Claude Van Damme, for instance. But anyway. And they're talking about haggis. And Sean Connery is saying how disgusting haggis sounds to him. That just blows my mind that that's something that happened.
I guess they were thinking, fuck it, these guys are 500 years old each. That they've lived all over. They're going to have weird accents.
I know, but the fact is, the most prominent Scottish actor ever.
Right, exactly, yeah, I agree.
There's a scene about a Scottish hero, and he's not the Scottish hero. I mean, it's hilarious. I really like Highlander, by the way. That's the only thing with that actor. Except for Mortal Kombat 2, because I said I'm a Mortal Kombat fan.
Not Aaron Paul. He was in the series.
Christopher
Lambert.
Yeah, Christopher Lambert. Because with apologies to friends like Rambo, to me, Christopher Lambert is a huge red flag that means this movie is straight-to-video bullshit. That's what his inclusion in a movie means. He's a terrible, terrible actor, and I can't help. I've seen quite a few performances, and he's a really bad actor. I've got nothing good to say about him. I think he's really funny as Raiden, but that's about it. I mean, he's in some movies that I can kind of enjoy on a separate level. I watched that movie Fortress. That's kind of a
he's good in Fortress.
But he's not good in Fortress. Fortress is just an okay movie. He's not good in it.
Well,
he can't deliver a line.
He's done some stuff that I like.
Fair enough. Like I said, he's done some stuff that I like, but to me, he's just a huge red flag.
Let me go pull up some of his.
He's as D-list as it comes, man. D-list. I'm not saying all movies need A-list cast to have good acting. I'm just saying there is such a thing as a D-list, and he's squarely on it. He's down there with Lou Diamond Phillips.
Oh, don't talk bad about Lou Diamond Phillips.
What has he done that's any good? La Bamba?
He's done La Bamba, exactly.
That's the only serious movie I can think he's done. Everything after that is just straight-to-video stuff. It's I don't know, fighting terrorists on a cruise ship or something.
Let's see. I'm looking at Christopher Lambert, or Lambert, as some people say.
I'll stop dissing actors before I say something I can't take back, I guess. I want to upset everybody.
I don't really see a whole... It was in Fortress 2 also.
I didn't know there was a Fortress 2, but I'm not surprised. Maybe I'm really biased because he's one of the worst movies I've ever seen is this weird movie that came out in 1999 that's really loosely based on Beowulf, and it's called Beowulf. And oh my god, it's appalling.
I've never seen a good adaptation of Beowulf.
I like the 2007 one. You didn't like that?
Is that
that's the one that's all...
It's all CGI, right?
Yeah, really good CGI. Really good. Really realistic, man. They look almost like real people in that. I was super impressed by that. I don't know. I thought it was a good movie. And actually, have you seen the really weird 2006 one, Beowulf and Grendel? that has My Hero Sarah Polly. It's really weird because it's more about Grendel than Beowulf. It's more about like how the villagers and the people perceive him as a monster, but he's not really that bad of a monster. Sarah Polly's this weird local witch that he fucks sometimes. It's messed up, but it's really cool. I enjoy it. And I love where, and it must be shot like in Iceland or something, because it's really good location where it's shot. It looks like the end of the fucking world. It looks really great. But yeah, it's called Beowulf and Grendel. I saw it in the theater, but I don't imagine it had a wide theatrical release.
Yeah, I think you're right. It was Iceland.
Yeah. I mean, it looks it. It looks very authentic. It was a really good movie. I don't know who played Beowulf in it, but he says, like, I'm Beowulf, like, 16 times in the first, like, 20 minutes. He just keeps meeting new people and introducing himself. It's pretty funny. But, yeah, Beowulf is actually much less important. It's more about Grendel than Beowulf, which is interesting. Grendel is much less of a monster in this. He's more like a monstrous man. Like, he's like a big, but definitely a man. Whereas, which is a bit of a different interpretation, because in the original poem, Grendel is absolutely a monster, not a man. There's some more literature you study in school. That's like the oldest surviving story, as far as I know, isn't it? Beowulf?
Yeah, I believe so. Or at least that's what I was told.
At least it's like intact.
Yeah.
Because I mean, yeah, you've got like some of the ancient Greek stuff too, like Homer's like stuff. But anyway, it's super old.
Well, did you want to talk about Shape of Water at all?
Well, I mean, we can just have some remarks on it, like what you thought. I'll just say it was a movie that I was really looking forward to, or that I knew I would like. It sort of gave me everything I was expecting, and I liked it. But it didn't seem to affect me on the profound emotional level that it did some people. But I did really like it. I mean, there was just so much build up to it. I saw so much art and stuff and heard so much about it that like I almost felt like I'd seen it before I saw it. Like there wasn't anything in it that surprised me, but that was never a bad thing. I liked the movie start to finish. I liked everything about it. It was a very good movie. Really did great job of setting it in its era and stuff. Really
I love the period aspects.
And Michael Shannon's just a great villain.
Yeah, he is. Man, the soundtrack was really good, I thought.
Mm-hmm.
Some really interesting choices in there that work really well. Like there's a few French songs in there, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That I think worked really well.
Yeah, I recognized a couple of them, but now I can't really remember what they were.
This is kind of billed as like Del Toro's opus, right?
Yeah, I guess so.
I mean, I really loved it, man. I thought it was a great film, top to bottom. I do have some questions about why they did certain things. Like, I don't know. I guess spoilers for anybody that's going to watch the film, but it's not really big plot things. It's just
spoilers,
stuff that happens in the film. Like, you remember when Michael Shannon gets his fingers cut off, and then he goes home and it's maybe after he bought his new car, but he has sex with his wife, and she just like pulls the tit out, like, and starts talking about all the stuff they're going to do. Like, I don't know. Is that just I don't know. That just seemed like an odd choice to me.
Well, that she pulled her tit out?
She just pulled one out and just kind of left it there and was still like talking about what she's going to make for dinner tomorrow night or something. And anyway, it was lots of, it's like he knew it was going to be rated R, so he was like just trying to do like weird stuff like that because
that didn't seem too weird to me. I don't know. I just think couples all have their own weird sexual dynamic, and it seemed to me like this is a thing that they do sometimes. I get the feeling that one of the things that makes him feel like he's very much feels he's like an alpha male type guy, right? Yeah. And I think and she's definitely like a trophy wife, and I think one of the things he probably often loudly proclaimed to her is that she has like great tits. So she knows that's something he likes. So he's had a bad day, and she's going to cheer him up. Is kind of what I got out of it.
Okay.
It's pretty funny too, like when he's railing her in their boring '50s missionary thing, and he's like trying to put like his like mangled hand in her face.
Yeah, oh man, it's like stinky gangrene fingers.
I mean, it's a really good send up, sort of like the people with those sort of vanilla sex lives type thing, and like. He doesn't want to even hear her noises. Like, he just wants her to
He wants her to shut up, doesn't he?
Pump. He doesn't want to hear her noises or talking or anything like that. He just wants to pump away, come, and finish off. Which is, I don't know. Apparently, that is what the world. Is it real? Because that's what I see in sitcoms and everything like that. That the average, I don't know, American or a person like is just some idiot that gets on top of his wife, pumps, comes, and goes.
Oh, and then it's over. Yeah.
Is that true, or is that just a joke? I'm not trying to say I have amazing, fantastic sex, except that I do. But I'm just saying, like, if we live in this sex-obsessed culture, is that the reality of it? Is that what it really is? Is that what it is all over the world? Just like guys that like, oh, they lust after beautiful women. It's so awesome to have beautiful, sexy women, and then they do fucking nothing with them.
Well, I think it probably was at one point.
Now, yeah, again, I get
I would hope
this is white bread 50s.
Yeah.
Type thing where it's just
Well, I don't think they were concerned about the woman having a good time at all. So that was pretty much.
It was considered like the women don't even really like sex. That it was just more their duty. Yeah. I get that. I'm just saying, even if I was an asshole that only cared about my own gratification, that's not how I would go about it. But we're not going to get too real there for people. But it's just always something that just showed up again and again in fiction, especially in like sitcoms and stuff like that. It's always like the dad or the guy or the whether it's Peter Griffin or whoever, they just suck at sex. They have like no imagination, they have no energy, they're completely bland and unfulfilling to their wives, and that's the joke.
In this case, I think it totally fit Michael Shannon's character.
No, in this, absolutely. That was me going on a tangent. Yeah. I think you're right. I think this absolutely fits this character. That wasn't weird to me. That was just a little tangent I was doing. I think it absolutely fits this movie, yeah.
I felt showing it was a bit much. I mean, I think it was kind of uncalled for to have just a lingering shot for like 30 seconds of him pumping away, violently pumping away. I had the gist of his character already.
Yeah, I guess so.
I don't need to see that. It's kind of my point. Or maybe like cut that scene much shorter.
Yeah, I guess didn't bother me.
The film has lots of sexual things in it. Like
yes,
he has a big crush on whatever the lead female's name.
I love that he admits that what he likes best about her is that she doesn't talk. Like, now that's an attractive woman. She doesn't talk. And I hate to say it, but I kind of get it.
I'm not touching that shit.
I mean, no, this is, here's a big sort of weird, stupid, embarrassing admission for me, because this is like, because, obviously I try to show myself as a much more enlightened person than that. And it's not like, oh, I hate when girls talk. No, I don't mean that. All I mean is that in fiction, I think it's an anime thing, really. There's a lot of girls out there that I always call like the blank girl, the girl that barely talks, if she ever talks, and they're always so hot to me. The best example is probably Rey from Evangelion. Rey talks, but she barely talks, and when she does, it's like monosyllabic and like a robot, and she shows no emotion. And for some reason, I'm super attracted to that, and I've seen that again and again in fiction, and I'm always drawn to them, and it's kind of embarrassing because it's like, you don't really want a girlfriend like that. What the hell would that be? But anyway, it's just a little aside. So I kind of get but I think it's different with Michael Shannon. It's not like he likes a blank girl. He just likes a woman that's not going to give him any mouth or whatever. But yeah. I hate talking about sexual stuff because I always get way too real, and I'm sure people don't want to hear about it.
Well, I can totally understand that being some sort of mystique to it, and she's got the scars, which he says he's okay with. He actually likes it, which is also kind of weird.
Yeah, that's pretty weird. That one I find weird. Yeah, but again, I get that he's a weird guy.
But I understand it. It kind of plays up in the end, but I was also like kind of unsure as to why they kept showing her masturbating in the bathtub. And I get it now, but again, okay, guys, it's gonna be full spoilers here. I'm gonna tell it all here. Okay, the reveal at the end of the movie.
Drop the bomb.
Turn it off if you haven't seen the movie and care. Like, she's a gill person, right? Why is he green and shit, and she looks like a normal human? I mean,
I never thought that she was a gill person. I just thought he had the ability to turn her, and I just thought
okay.
And I always thought the idea that she had like the scars there was just sort of like destiny. That's
Okay.
how I saw it. But I mean,
Okay.
maybe she was because like I think they like you said something I forgot that early in the movie they said that she was found like near the banks of a
Yeah,
river or
on a
something when
bank
she was a
of a river.
baby. So that's a completely valid theory. So I don't know. To me, I thought he turned her, and the fact that she already had like scars where the gills would go, I just thought that was just like whimsy. I thought that was it's destiny. Like she was always destined to get to this moment, and that's where that would happen. But I mean, what you said is just as valid. So I don't know.
It just, that's, see, I'll tell you guys, I didn't see it coming. I should have. Obviously, I should have, but it totally took me by surprise.
I miss those things sometimes in
So,
movies too, and I always feel so stupid afterwards.
yeah, Director Smiley says more surprised Fishman had a penis. Well, he's got like a cloaca, I imagine. Like it's like a, have you ever seen like a turtle dick? Like they're insanely
Yeah,
disgusting.
yeah,
So
it's
I
really,
keep
really
I'm
bad.
gonna keep doing that. It's yeah, they get
I guess
really
I will
large at
give
the
a.
tip.
I'll admit I'm surprised at how sexual the movie was because I thought it would be because I thought like nothing that was in the movie just surprised me. But like you said, the fact that they linger on some of it or they make a point of talking about some of it, like for instance, like her telling her friend about it and her like specifically asking, "Does he have a dick?" and her telling it, like I never thought that was going to be a conversation that happened.
I didn't think it needed to be talked
Yeah,
about
that's what I
either.
mean.
It's
Like,
odd.
yeah, I felt like they go a little far with the sexual stuff because it's already there. It's implied. We already know, and I felt like they were just sort of hitting us over the head with it. Because, like, yeah, it just never occurred to me that she would actually be asking her, "Well, does he have a dick?" I want the audience to be completely
Yeah,
sure that full penetration, vaginal
yeah.
sex
It,
intercourse is occurring.
it should have just shown it.
It's not some water hanky panky going on. Like it's the whole thing.
They're not just having bump and grind. They're having full penetration here, folks.
Yeah, yeah. So there were a few times with like I think you're right that some of those sexual things like they went a bit overboard, maybe.
I mean, I get it. She enjoys pleasure in the water,
Sure.
and that totally plays up with the end, and I understand that. Hey, also filling up that room with water is just a stupid thing. Like you can't do that. That's
No, but that's just one of the
that's
more again
that's
whimsical things, right?
yeah, that's stupid. Um,
I guess so.
and the worst part about it to me, this is my least favorite part of the movie, was the casting of Richard. What is his name? Her next door neighbor, the closeted homosexual fella.
Oh, you didn't like that casting?
I didn't like that casting only because it's the same reason I didn't like the casting in Let Me In, because I just recognize that guy too much. I
Oh,
just can't see him in any other role.
I don't know him at all. So
He's done tons of movies. I saw him in something else just a little while ago.
yeah, see, people like that blend into the background for me. I don't. I'm sure I've seen him many times, but I don't know. Just like I
Giles, yeah,
remember you
Richard.
guys were talking about what were you talking about? Certain TV actors and how it's hard if they have a long TV career and suddenly they're in movies. That's true, but that really doesn't affect me. And I remember you were talking about John Krasinski or whatever his name is. See, it doesn't matter to me to see him in a movie
Mm-hmm.
because I don't associate him with the show at all. I didn't watch the show, but
Well,
I get that's a thing that a lot of people deal with is they get used to seeing an actor a certain way, and then it's sort of jarring to see them another. So yeah, I miss out on that sometimes.
yeah, another name that comes to mind is Michael C. Hall from Dexter,
Okay, I know
who
him.
has struggled with. I know he's had some success on Broadway and stuff.
He was in a couple movies and did not. I actually liked him in that Gamer movie. It's not a very good movie, but he's pretty good at it. It's like this weird, eccentric billionaire bad guy with a southern accent or a really weird, strong accent.
Yeah, he's one of the better parts of that movie. Again, that's my Gerard Butler theory. He sucks.
Yeah, Gerard Butler definitely sucks. Yeah,
He is in there, right? In the lead in Gamer.
yeah, he's the main guy.
Yeah, that's
in the late 2000s, he was like the guy. He was in action movies and he was in romantic comedies, back and forth. He was the guy.
He's my Christopher Lambert.
He's not a very good actor, I'll give you that. And seeing, as we talked about many times on the show, it's very painful seeing him try to suppress his accent because he can't do it.
Yeah, he's funny. My father-in-law loves his movies. He's always going
There's
to buy
way
those.
worse than that. My dad loves Steven Seagal, so there's way worse than that.
Well, yeah.
Although, to be fair, it's not like my dad has seen much of Steven Seagal's recent work. He's mostly seen the standbys, which are at least defensible, you know. I don't know what my dad would think about Steven Seagal if he saw like anything for the past 15 years.
Yeah, it's like Gerard Butler, Nicolas Cage. There's a few of these guys that just like John Travolta's gotten like that too, where he just makes like 10 crappy movies every year. I guess he has some.
I've never been a John Travolta fan.
Some alimony bills or something, but
I've never liked him, not at any point in my
either,
life
really.
or his career. Like, I mean, here's the role I associate him with, like Danny in Grease. That's all I see. Really.
I saw Urban Cowboy recently. I like that one a lot.
Yeah, I've heard that's pretty good. That was like during the time when his career had fallen down the tubes, so I guess a lot of people didn't see it or didn't do too well. But I've heard it's actually pretty good. But yeah, he's an actor I could take or leave. I don't dislike him, but he doesn't make an impression on me. I mean, I'll always love him because he's one of my favorite movies that I've seen like 65 times, which is Broken Arrow.
Oh yeah.
I've seen that movie so many times.
See, that's a good John Woo movie.
I never get tired of it. Yeah, it's a good John Woo movie. Yeah, John Woo did some good non-Chinese movies, and that's definitely one of them. And actually, he's in the other one too. I mean, I love Face Off. Face Off is ridiculous, but I love it.
Oh, he did Face Off also? Okay, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
Director Smiley beat us to it.
That's all the John Woo. That even has The Church with Doves.
Huh. Gotta have some doves, man.
But those don't bother me as much about Shape of Water. I have one minor quibble with Shape of Water, and it's just something that makes me look kind of like a sanctimonious Canadian. And that's it. I don't buy that a guy from Ottawa who is transported to Baltimore would so overwhelmingly embrace the racism of the area. So I'll just say that. I don't buy that at all.
Oh, come on.
To me, I was like, that's
I said Canadians are known for being horrible, racist people.
And again, that's not me saying, oh, there's no racism in Canada. Pfft, of course there is. Of course.
Yeah.
And right now we have our own fucking George Zimmer thing going on. In like Saskatchewan or something, a white farmer shot and killed an indigenous guy that was on his property. And an all-white jury found him innocent. And, a lot of the country's going nuts over it. And rightfully so. So, no, racism's alive and well. So I'm not going to try to pretend it doesn't. But no, I didn't like that at all. That I found out this character from Ottawa that was faking the accent is actually just some piece of shit that was like, oh, I love it down here. The racism is great. No, I didn't like that. But
I wonder what. I mean, he could have very well not even said where he was from, really, and it wouldn't have mattered.
No.
Wonder why they felt the need to say that he was from Ottawa.
I don't know. Just sometimes little things. First when I hear it, I'm sort of amused. I'm like, oh, he's actually a Canadian faking an accent. Then I find out, oh, he's actually a dirtbag.
Well, he's also homophobic.
Yeah, that too, yeah. Well, it was very par for the course in the 50s, but yeah.
So what is it? The the African-American people couldn't sit at the what do you call it?
The counter.
The bar?
They weren't allowed to eat in. They could only order out. They could
that's it.
They could do takeout or something.
See, I'm from Mississippi, guys, and this is all I'm not familiar with these things. And where was this movie set?
Baltimore.
Baltimore.
What do you mean? Wasn't there tons and tons and
tons?
Yeah,
I'm just saying I'm not familiar with how it worked. I mean, I'm not I don't I've heard stories, but I don't
you're not that old. I know. I
don't know riding in the back of the bus type stuff. I've only heard stories, the same stuff that other people have heard. It's
yeah, I mean, that was just that rule for that. The whole point was places could have whatever rules they wanted. Mm-hmm. That was their rule there, but there wasn't any across the board rule. They just made up stuff as they saw fit. They were like, different fountains, different bathrooms, different schools. Yeah. But some places were more lenient and didn't care. But yeah, it was more or less if you ran an establishment, you could just make up whatever rules you wanted about it. Mm-hmm. And a lot of them, chose that.
I'm just saying a lot of people assume that's ingrained in my DNA to understand that type of stuff. It's all news to me.
I mean, and I'm sorry about that because that must be annoying. Because I mean, I get it. the history of where you're from doesn't have anything to do with you personally.
It can't. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of hard to escape it.
Yeah,
it's like the first thing people think of. But
Mississippi, oh, you're an ignorant racist, aren't you?
I had a friend of mine move from Rhode Island when I was in like junior high, and he thought that we wouldn't be wearing shoes, there would be no indoor plumbing, and a few other things like that. But it's like we talked to a few people that thought stuff like that. Like they like actually thought that.
I hate to say it, but it's not really within Canada that it happens. We don't really make that many assumptions about other parts. But of course, we do have the thing where Americans think, that we live in igloos and shit like that.
Really?
Yeah.
Igloos? Okay.
Yeah. Oh, they'll believe anything, especially if you lead them down in the first place. Rick Mercer had his own thing for years. There was a segment on his show. You know how, Jay Leno had jaywalking?
Yeah.
Well, we had this thing called Talking to Americans, where he would visit American cities, and he would spout outrageous things about Canadians, and they would totally believe him and eat it up. And he get them to like agree to, they'd be like, "Congratulations, Canada, on getting your first light bulb," some whole bullshit. Like they just believe anything he told them. And I'm not saying that's all Americans, but obviously that's the whole point. Same thing with jaywalking. Probably not everybody's that dumb, but they show the dumb ones, and that's what he did. He would show the Americans that just would believe any bullshit he told them. They were like, "Oh, okay. Oh, really? In Canada, that's still okay." Yeah, and shit like that. That was a very popular segment for a long time.
Yeah, it seems like the way the news is, the stupid people always wind up on the news.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's how it goes with most things. The stupid people rise to the top and stuff. I mean, that's how it is, though. The ignorant people are always the loudest people.
Yeah, that is true.
They know the least, but they say the most. And, you see that everywhere. You see it on Twitter and YouTube and all these things. And yes, it's the way of things.
It's just now that, social media has given them a
platform.
Yeah.
Well, what sucks about it, though, is how they validate it with each other, though. That's what bothers me the most.
If this gets retweeted 1,000 times, it means it's true.
Yeah, stuff like that.
Yeah, there's nothing worse than politics on Twitter.
What passes for them anyway.
Yeah.
Or how you can just say something on Twitter and then people think that it has something to do politically, and you're not really trying to be political, but they have some sort of skew on it, so they think that,
Here's a fun game to play. Go to just a random YouTube video about anything and go down in the comments and see how long it takes for it to either get racist or some sort of political argument. I can't remember what I was watching the other day. It was the most innocent thing.
Yeah.
And people were talking about racism in the comments. It's I don't know, I guess people just like controversy, right?
I don't know.
They like drama.
I don't.
No, fuck no, I don't either.
I don't like any of those things. But I mean, that is something that seems to have come to the forefront in the last couple of years and stuff like that. It's people that always had racist thoughts that now feel yes, now's the time to totally express them out into the world. It's okay, if you were just racist and didn't say anything about it, we could tolerate you. But now you're out in the world saying, "Oh, it's okay, I should have to say this and that and the other thing." I don't know. It's everywhere. I don't even get it. But I'll tell you, I've been obsessed with a bunch of, I don't know when this became a thing, but these are videos in late 2017 and early 2018. At first I thought it was just one channel, but it's multiple channels. And all they are is called Steamed Hams Buttits. And it's from one of my favorite episodes ever of The Simpsons, 22 short films about Springfield. It's the one that just jumps around from the point of view. It has all the different characters, and it does the Pulp Fiction thing and everything like that with Wiggum and everybody in the gun shop. And I don't know. Do you remember that one? That's one of my favorite episodes ever. And it also includes an encounter between Principal Skinner and Chalmers, where Chalmers visits Skinner to have food.
Yeah.
And he winds up burning it in the oven. And he runs across the street and buys stuff from Krusty Burger and lies to him and tells him that it's his. Meanwhile, you remember that?
Yeah.
You remember that? So there's this whole thing of videos based on that, steamed hams, where it's I thought you said it was steam because the smoke. He said, "Oh, that's not smoke, that's steam from the steamed hams we're having." And he's just these are hamburgers. Oh, that's what I call hamburgers, steamed hams. But But you can look it up. There's just a bunch of videos where people basically edit that scene in different ways over and over again. Some of them aren't very good, and some of them are crazy. All it is that scene, the steamed ham scenes between, and just people do all these weird edits to them. And I've just been watching them for like 3 days straight. There's so many. They're just all steamed hams, but and then it's whatever they added to it. And there's a bunch of them. They're really funny. Not
Where
all
can I
of them.
find these?
On YouTube.
Just look up steamed hams.
Yeah, steamed hams, but it's.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's, and then there's just a bunch of things. There's one where like, every time a word of dialogue is repeated, they just go back to the first time it was used. There's ones where it goes backwards. There's one where every time Skinner tells a lie, which he does over and over again, like he gets sucked into hell more and more, where like he gets all red and his voice goes down funny, and like not all of them are funny. The first one I saw was like fucking Star Fox. It was Star Fox 64, but it's steamed hams, like every random bizarre thing you can think of. I don't know how it became a thing, but it's the steamed ham scene, and it's just people doing a bunch of bullshit edits to it, and most of them are pretty darn funny, at least to me.
Steamed hams, but it's Metal Gear Solid.
I haven't even watched that one yet, but I watched a bunch of them, and that's what I've been watching on YouTube for like 3 days straight. It's just
you can really get lost in stuff like that.
Yeah, you fall down the rabbit hole. But before we do that to people, we'll just say that, we're probably going to do about maybe 2 episodes more of this, and we won't keep you in suspense anymore. We do know next week, and it's a big one. It is Kevin Costner's magnum opus, Waterworld.
It's coming.
Because... we've always expressed an interest talking about films that were maybe misunderstood or didn't do so well or were flops, and this one is a flop, and it's not a movie I've ever come around on. I really understand why. So I don't hate it. Like, I don't have any like malice or venom towards it, but I definitely think it's a pretty friggin' bad movie, and I totally understand why it bombed. But I think it'll be a fun one to do. So coming at you next week is Waterworld, and then we'll finish off Water with something else. We haven't determined that yet, but something else. And then we're going to do something really big that I won't spoil yet, but it's our first sort of a big ambitious series of the year. Last year, people will recall we did a series on New Hollywood, and this is another one of those that we're pretty excited about, and we're working out what those episodes are going to be like. So after the Water stuff, we'll get into that. But this was Dead Calm, which I think is definitely stands out as an above average thriller.
Absolutely.
Especially, it's a good showcase of those actors back when they weren't so well known, when a lot younger. I was surprised, as you said, Sam Neill was already 42 for this movie. That's older than I thought. So, Sam Neill was already well into his 40s by the time I was really familiar with him as an actor.
Twice her age.
Mm-hmm. And again, that was supposed to be a plot point. You're supposed to but not that it's a really big deal. I mean, they're a couple there, but they are. But yeah, but it's too bad about Billy Zane, because Billy Zane shows that he can, do some pretty good acting when called upon. He's just, I don't know if he's had bad luck or made a lot of bad choices, like something like, something like The Phantom probably was supposed to help put him into like as a mainstream A-list guy, and that, that didn't work out. Maybe someday we'll do that. But I've always really liked Billy Zane. Whenever I see him in Demon Knight, I always think, oh, he'd be such a good Lex Luthor. He's 51 now. I think he could still be a good Lex Luthor,
Absolutely.
even at 51. I feel like it's just such a missed opportunity that Kevin Spacey was cast, and then fucking Jesse Eisenberg. We won't go into that, but that just makes me sad, because I always think he's definitely the guy. He just seems like the obvious choice to me. Much as like when they, as much as I hate the X-Men movies, they were totally right to cast the other baldy, Patrick Stewart as Professor X. Like, I don't like those movies for the most part, but that was a no-brainer. Like, yes, absolutely, that's what you should do.
I don't think I could even hear the name Professor X without thinking of Jean-Luc Picard or
Patrick Stewart. Yeah,
Patrick Stewart.
He is Jean-Luc Picard. He is Picard.
I mean, he was born to play Professor X.
Yeah, exactly. So I might criticize those movies, but that was just a slam dunk, like easy. Yeah, for years he could have been Professor X, and you didn't even know it. Like, well before there were movies, he could have been the guy. Because let's face it, he's a guy he's older now, but for many years, basically was frozen in time. From like the early 80s to like the early 2000s, 25, 30 year period where anyone's guess what his age was. You
He's
knew he
one of those
wasn't
guys
young, but he
that
wasn't old.
he went bald really young, and he could play an old guy when he was probably like late 20s, you know?
Right.
And because he wasn't even that old on Star Trek: The Next Generation.
As somebody that never watched that show and doesn't care about it, I'm as big as like a fan of him as exists. Like I love him, and I love him without even loving Picard because like I mean I'm not really a Star Trek fan. I don't dislike him. I'm not into it. But and he's like one of the best examples too of like how a dramatic actor can actually be really funny. Like he's been so funny in recent years and stuff he's done. So funny. One of my favorites is that Ricky Gervais show, Extras. Did you see the episode he's in with that, where he's just talking about this movie he wants to make, but all he's talking about is like the nudity. He's like, then we'll have this beautiful girl in, and her breasts will be like this. Like, so awesome.
I love that show. See, there's one TV show you watched.
Yeah, it is. And what's funny is like, not to get into this and make this episode take forever because we were wrapping up, but well, you know, when I talk about how I don't like The Office, what's funny is one of the reasons I don't like it, and I don't mean it's bad, why it doesn't appeal to me is The Office mostly relies on sort of like kind of an awkward, kind of uncomfortable humor that I don't like. And yet Extras is that times 10, and I like that. So I don't know. So maybe that's not the reason. Because Extras is always just about like, it's kind of like a Curb Your Enthusiasm deal, like where by the end the main character just looks like a jerk to everybody. And usually that doesn't fly for me. I don't like that. Like I don't like Curb Your Enthusiasm either. But for whatever reason, I like Extras. And mostly because of the celebrity cameos. They're so funny.
You're like the only person I've ever said they didn't like Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Again, I don't dislike it. Like I don't think, oh shit, it just doesn't really do much for me. I don't really think it's funny. But I don't know. I like Seinfeld more now, but I was never a big Seinfeld fan either. I think it's okay, you know. So I think you have to be like a big Seinfeld fan to like Curb Your Enthusiasm. I can't really separate the two.
I think there's a large percentage of people that don't even know what Seinfeld is, but watch Curb.
Really? I know Seinfeld's old and been off the air, but isn't it one of those giant things? Like,
oh yeah, it's.
I mean, it's huge.
Yeah.
I'm sure like people 20 years younger than me still know Seinfeld, even if they weren't around for it. All right, I figure it's still on TV all the time.
Yeah, I mean, I'm watching Seinfeld now. It's one of my all-time favorites. Like I'm still watching it. I'm listening to a podcast right now, and I'm following along with them.
I really disliked it when I was younger and it was on, but as I've gotten older, I like it more. But it's not a favorite or anything like that. But you know, you must have a favorite episode then, since you like it so much. You must have a favorite.
Oh yeah, the massage.
Okay, I know that one.
When George gets a massage from a man.
Yeah, my favorite episode is The Race.
That's a good one.
That
you like the Superman stuff?
Yeah. You know, I'm pretty sure I have seen every episode.
Really? Okay.
If there's ones I haven't seen, they might be like first season. There might be some early ones I didn't see. Although I've seen the very first episode. I'll say that, where he's picking up the woman at the airport. I've seen the first episode. So there might be a handful from the early days that I didn't see. But I saw pretty much everything after that, like over the years.
I think it really picks up stride in season 3. And it pretty much just maintains it throughout, you know, because it ended on a high note. So,
well, that's the other thing. I'm not somebody that like really liked it a lot, but I do agree that it didn't have like some sort of decline. I saw no decline, and it was a good ending. Like I know some people were really weirded out by the ending at the time. I thought it was a pretty good ending. I thought it made sense.
Considering I don't know that anything would have made people happy, really.
Well, yeah, I mean that's how it goes with a lot of things that are really big and popular and run for a long time.
But see, I relate with George so much. I feel like I am George a lot of the time.
You shouldn't say that.
Oh, I know.
I would never admit that, man.
But
I can't relate to anything George goes through ever. Nope.
You know, it's the Larry David side of it. You know, he's
very much so.
It's basically him.
I really like Jason Alexander. Jason Alexander's an awesome actor.
Yeah,
he's an awesome actor.
He is, because he's really nothing like George at all.
And that's the other thing. It's like it's a little too bad because I mean it's not bad. I'm sure he doesn't mind that he'll always be associated with the character. It's a good character, but I mean he can do a lot of really great stuff. Always really liked him. I saw him the other day. What was I watching? I watched the first like 20 minutes of Pretty Woman because I'd never seen that before, and he's in that. Yeah. He's kind of funny. It's just some rich jerk. Yeah. But anyway, we don't want to drag this out too much, so we'll finish up here. But that was Dead Calm. Thanks a lot, and we'll be continuing on with our water theme for the next couple. And yep, pretty excited. Get on board for Waterworld. I mean, you got to get excited about that. I know I am. So that'll be next week, guys. So thanks a lot for watching, and I think that'll do for now. And we'll see you in a week's time. Peace out.
Thanks, guys.